Meeting, June 10th, the Comprehensive Plan Committee meeting. So the first item on the agenda is the roll call. Becky, why don't we start on your end tonight?
Becky Conrad.
Riley Bergeron.
Bilal Hussein.
Paul Jacques.
Dana Staples.
John Cleveland.
Matthew Duval.
Jeff Hyman.
Rick Whiting.
Bruce Ryu.
Dennis Bergeron.
Rex Rhodes.
Allie Toby, Barry Dunn. Lauren Cafe, Long Range Planner.
DeCarlo Brown, Planning.
Dennis Dote, Assistant City Manager.
And Mr. Lee, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Adam Lee.
All right. Kelly Butler informed me that the employer who she works for is having a meeting this evening, and they requested her presence at that meeting. So she's hoping to come a little bit later, as soon as they can get the meeting done. And city manager Bill Crowell has a meeting this evening and will join us as soon as that meeting is over. With that, it brings us to the minutes. Let's see, the first set of minutes is the set of May 19th, 2026. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
So moved.
It's been moved
Second.
and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimously accepted. We have the minutes from our last meeting on May 26th presented to us. I will accept any errors or changes to those minutes if there are any. I will note 2 typos, that's all. Under the public comment section, they have Roger Belanger addressed us at that meeting. The actual spelling for that name, I believe, is Belanger. I think that was just a typo. And the second one is another typo. Stephen Beal. Beal has an E on the end. I know that's a typo because it's spelled properly in the previous meeting minutes that we just adopted. Any further errors or additions?
I have one. My name is in the absent and in the present, so I was absent last meeting, so I just strike my name in the present section.
I'm sorry, say that again. You were not absent?
I was absent, but I'm also listed as present. So you could just choose one, you know?
Well, you were here in spirit. Okay. With those changes that we just discussed, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as changed, as amended.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been seconded. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as amended, thank you. As at all our meetings, we provide an opportunity for public comment. This is the time for public comment at our meeting this evening. I will open it up to see if there's any member of the audience that would like to address the committee. Just come up to the podium, give us your name and your address. Seeing none, I will close the public comment section. The next item on the agenda, item 4, is the descriptions of the land use maps, and there was, staff made a change to that, and you probably noted it when you looked over it. Let me see here. I thought I had it right handy. Well, it's in the high-density core area. We eliminated that, as we discussed, removing the requirement that, removing the narrative that the buildings in that area had to be 4 stories. So then, is there any discussion in regards to adopting that change in the description? All right.
Actually, I have a comment here. The staff edit was under mixed-use neighborhood, density and form. It's page 13 of your packet that I wanted to discuss. I think we made the edit for the high-density core at last meeting, and so I wanted to discuss the this area is characterized by larger scale developments, including 1-story and ground level commercial. Oh wait, no, sorry, I'm on mixed use quarter. This area is characterized by homes and businesses with fewer than 4 stories on smaller lots. And so I wanted to be consistent across our descriptions and strike out any limits on stories unless the committee felt strongly, just for consistency's sake. So sorry, that was an error on my part for not catching that in your packet. And so in the high density core, we took out the story, and I would like to take out the story in mixed use neighborhood.
All right, discussion on that narrative change. Bruce?
I have no idea what Lauren just said.
Yeah. Could you
What, we talked about mixed-use neighborhood?
Yes.
And what paragraph?
It is paragraph 3, density and form, the first sentence. And so I'm recommending that the description that says fewer than 4 stories, we eliminate that stories, because we don't talk about stories in other category descriptions.
Yeah. Oh, Adam. Trying to read and hear at the same time.
And that totally makes sense to me. Would you be deleting the whole sentence or making it the area is characterized by homes and businesses on smaller lots?
I think we would keep it homes and businesses on smaller lots and take out with fewer than 4 stories.
So you're eliminating with fewer than 4 stories. Okay. Everybody clear?
And I have one more note in the downtown under density and
We're going to
form.
do them one at a time.
Yes.
Dana?
I was just thinking about it, and I guess I'm thinking out loud. I think it makes sense to eliminate numbers of stories here, because it seems like that would belong in zoning instead. Yeah.
Right. I think that makes some sense. Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of that change, raise your hand. It's adopted unanimously. Okay, Lauren, you got another one?
I do have another one. On page 12 of your packet, under downtown, this is paragraph 3, density and form. Again, the first sentence. This area is characterized by high-density development of 3 or more stories.
This is in the downtown section.
Yes. Under density and form paragraph.
All right, everybody see that?
John.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And just confirming, you just strike that prepositional phrase.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it would be this area is characterized by high-density development with an emphasis on preserving building heights, scale, and architectural style.
Okay. Dana?
I'm going to contradict myself here.
Okay.
I don't know that I necessarily care about how many stories is discussed here. But I do like the idea of having some notation that we expect buildings to be dense in area and height. And so I'm not really sure if there's a good way to capture that, but I think that it's really important to make really good use of our downtown development, and it'd be silly to put like a Dunkin' Donuts, like a one-story kind of building, you know? So I don't know, I'm fine with striking it, but I think that it's really important to emphasize multi-story here, so I don't know if there's a way to capture that.
Well, what? Is there language that captures that? I'm not sure. Riley.
I think that the line that says preserving historic building heights it is all multi-story downtown, so I don't know if that addresses your concern.
Yeah, I like that. Yep, that's good.
Okay. Further discussion? Rick?
I just want to say, I think there was some staff concern about, having businesses that might have single story, and the example I thought of immediately was we wouldn't have a couple of banks downtown if they couldn't have drive-ups. And generally, they're in conflict with what you want downtown, but it's also very nice to have a couple of fairly good, community banks in our downtown. We've got two of them right within a quarter of a mile of each other with drive-ups, so I think you can't get too, restrictive. So I think all these comments have been good.
Further discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor of the change, raise your hand. Unanimous? All right, so that brings us back to where we had ended at the last meeting with
John.
the land use maps.
John?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, are you moving on from the?
Yes, I was, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so before you move on,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to make a comment about mixed-use neighborhoods. So
Yes.
I drove around a bunch of these places after the last meeting, and I still have some concern that we have a very wide range of the types of businesses, the scale and the intensity that we can have here. And I think it might be useful to add some type of notation in here that the commercial uses of larger scale or greater intensity be sited on streets with on-street parking. To give some guidance that everything in a mixed-use neighborhood isn't the same. It doesn't limit you from having businesses any place, but larger businesses, things that would have a lot more people and a lot more traffic, the idea would be to site those where you have on-street parking. You tend to have more room in those areas.
Is there some discussion in regards to that suggestion? Adam?
I'm wondering if you'd be open to something like that don't require the construction of additional parking, because I'd be comfortable with that. I don't know if necessarily requiring the existence of on-street parking is the direction we'd like to go.
Rick?
Going to say another way to handle it would be to just say has on-street parking or a suitable or sufficient off-street parking. You might have a big lot and it's not offensive to anybody, and that would not interfere with, egress on the streets.
Carlo?
I think what the mayor is getting at is making sure that those uses that have a higher demand of customers are suited to places that have the infrastructure to meet that demand. So we're not talking about the small coffee shop, but we might be talking about a large restaurant. And we're getting to the point where we're reducing parking requirements, right? And we're allowing the private market to decide how much parking they need. And so then we're left with the choices of where to place those uses, and a situation where we're at mixed-use neighborhood. So we've already said mixed use, which also includes residential and commercial, but then we're not saying that you can't have those higher demand uses. It's just for them to be sited in places that have the infrastructure to provide that extra the extra support. And in this case, it does make sense for the on-street parking or space for off-street parking, because one of the things that you've consistently said is about that mid-block, not having that mid-block high demand commercial use, and having that sited more on either a street that could take it with is more of a commercial in nature with the on-street parking, or being placed on the corners, which is a site that actually can have a higher demand use because it has the spatial concerns. So I'm not saying yes or no, I'm more saying a clarification of why you might go that way rather than another one. From a professional planner, it's a good suggestion because the way that we're going is that you won't have direct control over the density of each of those lots in those neighborhoods. And so you're going to have to try to push more on-street parking anyway in those situations, and you're going to think about your street network a lot more and a lot more directly.
Okay, Becky?
Well, the last paragraph in this section addresses the concept. It's a little squishy, but it starts to talk about it. May consider providing shared or public parking. I mean, that could be a surface parking lot, right? So we may not be, this maybe doesn't visually show what we're trying to say.
Correct.
So generally, we have not been trying to do the wordsmithing right here, live. But if there's a general agreement along the lines of what DeCarlo had suggested in the mayor, maybe we could ask them to bring back some suggested language to put in. Would that work? Okay. I think there's a consensus to do that, and we'll put that on your to-do pile. Anything else regarding the descriptions, the land use category descriptions? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to the future land use maps. I believe we left off in the South Main Street area. We'd made some changes, but we hadn't made all the changes. Is that, am I remembering that correctly? Yeah, so there we are. So I'm trying to, we made some changes. If you're looking at the map the way it is now, on the right-hand side, putting a portion of that right-hand side into compact residential. And we did not make any, we left at that time the other side of the street, across there, mixed-use neighborhood. But I'm not sure that we finished that conversation. If we haven't, we can finish it now. If we have finished it, then we'll move on. Yeah?
Ally, could you zoom out a little bit so we can see? So I think when I'm looking at the GIS, I think that we should be thinking about this as a group, not just where the orange hash mark is, but from there all the way down to the river and where we have the unresolved piece that borders Mill Street.
Right.
And think about that whole area. Is that all appropriate for mixed use, or some of it. You know, we need to consider some of the same circumstances we considered for the lots at Vickery and South Main, is that the city's pursuing extension of water and sewer up Broad Street. And so I'd like the group to think of that whole area sort of holistically, instead of just taking the one piece on South Main Street and then moving on to something else.
Yeah, so that's a good suggestion. I think it makes some sense to look at it sort of a little bit more holistically for the area, though as we move forward, depending on your preference, we could then make motions on the separate pieces, because there are several separate pieces there. And Jeff is referring to that area that's on, starts, well, Broad Street, but goes up Mill Street, I think, which is the mixed-use corridor, which we have on Washington, Minot, and Turner Street, Center Street. That obviously is not a mixed-use category, area, if you know the area at all. It goes up Mill Street, Rivers on the right-hand side, drops off very steeply, and then as you tie it into Broad Street and it goes out, it follows the Little Androscoggin, and it's a similar situation where the right-hand side is very steep, and you're gonna build in that area. So if it's not appropriate for the mixed-use corridor, is it appropriate to extend the mixed-use neighborhood to that area? I think that's a question. Riley?
I think this goes back to a conversation we had when we were defining where we were putting our growth areas by where there was sewer and water, and we had to talk about whether we should say whether there's include planned in that description. And we have included this area where there's planned, even out to the last one, the last thing we spoke about at the last meeting was based on planned sewer and water getting out there. But unless, I feel more comfortable keeping it as it is, because until that money is secured, this is a 10-year plan, so until the money is secured and the sewer and water is there, I think it would be better suited as compact residential.
Could you remind me what section you're referring to?
I was responding to Mr. Harmon's suggestion just now about the area that's right now compact residential, the yellow between the river and the section we're about to discuss. So I guess I was just commenting on that. Because we had in the planning board, we had the guy from the water department come in, and to connect to the sewer line, you have to either go across a railroad track, which is prohibitively difficult, or that whole area is all ledge, so it would include a lot of blasting, so it would be a difficult task, is what was my understanding of it. So until there's sewer and water in place, or
Jeff?
So where that cursor is right now, those are 3 very large undeveloped lots for which the current work the city's doing, it would prioritize that area for water and sewer at Vickery and South Main, which we talked about the last time there. If you're looking at that map there to the right of the cursor in the kind of tan color. So you're going to have these large lots directly across the street. I would think we'd be better served by continuing that mixed use across the street, and then where we have this hash lines on South Main that's already all built out with single-family residents, leaving that part compact residential. Because if you think about this from a development standpoint, that's where your capacity is not where, D Street and, off South Main, Candia, D, Enfield, Flanders, Gosnold, that whole area we were talking about the last time. That's all completely built out with small lots with houses on it already, where the orange hash is. So I would think that we would continue the compact residential across South Main, but where those large lots are, just to the left, right in there, not those, because that's the school and a conservation district. The three, just go to the left, Ally, keep going, right in there. Those three yellow lots, yeah, they're gonna be directly across the street from water and sewer. So we might extend the tan across there, and where we have the orange hash mark, where it's all built up already with compact residential housing, just leave that compact residential.
Is that clear to the area that Jeff is referring to?
So,
Okay.
and just to clarify, yellow, that yellow where the cursor is right now, that's compact residential.
Correct.
And so you would switch that to the salmon color, which is mixed use neighborhood. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be where those large lots are. We can figure out exactly where the boundaries are, but that area, to make that tan, and then the yellow and orange hash that we were talking about at the last meeting, just leave that yellow for compact residential.
That goes yellow, okay.
Dana?
Yeah, so in doing the reading for tonight, I guess the piece that jumps out at me is that I can't recall exactly where it was, but there's an objective where we're talking about making new developments kind of fit naturally from one density to another and to move out into lesser density. And so to me, it just, if you're gonna make those southern lots on this map mixed use, then I don't see how it fits if you're gonna make the other ones not mixed use.
The ones on the
The ones that
western
are
side.
shaded, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think I would just say they should all be the same thing, whatever they are.
Rick?
I agree with Dana. I think you just hate having, districts that are across the street from each other that are different. And it used to bug me with elections. Sometimes you'd have, one side of Gamage Avenue was one ward and the other side was another ward, and it was very confusing for people. And same thing with zoning. If you can keep the whole area consistent, and it's got the access to the sewer, which is the main driving force. If you've got sewer on that road, even that back big lot is fine, because there might be somebody who wanted to do a development back there, and they would obtain an easement from one of the people with the front on Main Street, and the sewer district would probably happily facilitate that, so, makes sense to me.
Ally, can you kind of scribe around, did you grasp the area we're talking about? Can you describe? I just want to
We're
make
going
sure
to
we're all
quickly
talking
make the
about-
cursor a little bit smaller.
Oh, okay. We have a giant cursor here.
Thank you for your
Not very
patience.
precise.
Dennis, you have a comment?
Yeah, about the intensity that follows, and could somebody remind me again what you're inviting with mixed use that you don't get with compact residential? Staff, maybe?
Multifamily.
Multifamily.
Sorry, Dennis, I didn't hear your question.
I was wondering what we are inviting if we go to mixed use rather than compact residential. What technically difference is there? And Jeff is saying multifamily, so that would be the kind of things that we're seeing out by Home Depot,
And
Grace Lawn, that kind of stuff.
and in a more intense commercial use as well.
Yeah.
Potentially.
And besides the water and sewer, it doesn't strike me from memory that the road infrastructure there is intense commercial kind of stuff.
I believe, Mayor Harmon, these were the 3 parcels that you had referenced, the larger ones.
Rick? Yeah.
I think the issue is that we're looking at some point to have some sort of, what would it be, east-west connector from Washington Street over to South Main, or at least Broad, and so, and probably South Main. So I think that's the intention, that you would have, if that comes, if we are able to achieve that kind of better traffic flow around that part of the city, then having a little more intensive use sort of matches up with that.
Yeah.
Ally, can you zoom out a little and look south of what you have in blue? So so as a landmark, you can see the trailer park across the river, right there. So just north of that, if anybody's been to the Washington Street corridor planning meetings, just north of that is where the proposed bridge would be to come across to Broad Street, right in that area. So it's, you know, there's a lot of planning left to do on that, but that's the general idea of what Rick's pointing out, is the bridge would come across there to Broad Street. So it might be more supportive of higher density residential development in there, in those lots, multifamily type build-up.
Okay. Further discussion on this particular suggestion? And the suggestion is to move those lots that are outlined from currently being compact residential to being mixed-use neighborhood. Do we have a, oh, I'm sorry, I was gonna ask a motion.
I guess as I look at this, I think the cartographer in me wants to have those 3 or 4 right there also be included. Yeah, you've got it, Ally. It just seems like there should be some continuity on the road.
Is there any further comment about that, adding that little section to it?
I mean, I'm not like that attached to it. It just seems like it looks better.
Yeah. Matt?
Yeah, I like that. Dana, it has the benefit of actually making that corner all one thing, at least on 2 sides. Yeah, personally, I'm fine with this. I have more questions about the orange hashed area up there, but that, I think we'll take that as a separate question. Is that right?
Yeah, we'll do that separately. And that's right on South Main Street, that section. Dana?
Might as well bring it up at this point. Are there any plans for Prospect Hill Golf Course? I mean, that's just one more parcel down. At this point, would it be advantageous to do anything there?
There isn't.
Jeff?
In the current plan, there isn't. The discussions are about that South Main and Vickery area, and then Broad Street from where water and sewer ends, just outside New Auburn proper, up to this area. But, you know, it seems highly unlikely that's going to be a golf course again. So there's some opportunities there.
Yeah. And I think we had to remember the time frame we're talking about here. I mean, we're in a 10-year time frame here, so plenty of time to the next group to expand this growth. Paul?
And just for consistency, do the 3 lots on the other side of the road.
All right. So that's Vickery on one side and South Main on the other.
Yes.
Mm. Well, we could. I mean, boundaries always begins and stops somewheres, but what's the feeling about adding those lots on the eastern side of the South Main. Yeah,
We could add those, that's all already, those are all residential house lots on, but on that corner of South Main and Vickery. I see Paul's point, but I would leave it as compact residential from South Main, Vickery going southeast, because it's not vacant land, there's already houses built out there.
you know, Vickery is a fairly narrow two-lane road, not as built up as the South Main road is. Other comments? Well, let's see what the pleasure of the committee is. So the question right now would be, let me see, how do I best divide this? Maybe I start by saying, well, wait a minute. Why don't we start with the original part, and then we'll add to that as we go. So the original was to put those 3 larger lots in, and then those lots adjacent to it on the same side into mixed-use residential. Let's start with that, and then we'll address your question. So we need a motion to change those areas I just described. Yeah?
So I'd like to move that we make those highlighted lots to the west of South Main mixed-use neighborhood.
Okay. Is there a
Second.
There's a second.
Yeah.
From Belial. Okay. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of making that mixed-use neighborhood, raise your hand. Okay, I'm in favor as well, so it's unanimous. Now, let's take up the second part of the question. Those lots that Paul suggested that are bordered by Vickery and South Main on the eastern side of the South Main. Would there be a motion to add that as a mixed-use neighborhood?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second. Sorry.
That's all right. You've got to be a little quicker, because I'm going to snap in here in a minute. Rick? Yeah, Rick?
I'm looking at those lots, and that there's a funny one that has a little section that goes sort of back away from South Main, and then there's another lot. So in other words, I see 4 lots there, and I see 3 of which I would say would want to be as part of the zoning on the South Main frontage. I wouldn't put that small piece that's on Vickery, that section, one right there, in that zone, because it's off South Main and it's residential, and it's, the rest of the area is yellow. I think it's consistent to do it that way.
Okay.
That's what I originally had in mind, yes.
Okay. Dana?
Yeah, I'll just add that one lot in a little bit further down into the second lot that kind of has 2 squares that are connected. There's a fairly decent-sized pond that takes up most of that space. And so I don't know that it really matters a lot. So probably good to keep it out of it.
Okay. Are you ready for the question? The question will be to add that additional area minus the lot that's outlined in blue as part of the neighborhood, mixed-use neighborhood. If you're in favor, you'll vote yes. If you're opposed, you'll vote no. All those in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All those opposed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 opposed. Motion carries. Okay. Jeff, were there other areas, since you brought up the question, in that vicinity that you wanted to address while we were in the South Main area?
Well, not out in that area. I think going back towards New Auburn, we still have kind of orange area and the piece off Mill Street. It's the same question. Should it be compact residential or mixed use?
So there, is there another section on South Main, you said, that you're thinking?
Yeah, it's what Ally's pointing to now.
Yeah.
It was unresolved at the
Right.
last meeting. We
Right.
did the lower piece, compact residential, and
Right.
so I think we need to decide what to do with that piece.
Yes. Okay, I agree. Discussion about appropriate land use category for the west side of South Main across from the compact residential area. Remind me, did we carve out a little piece on the east side as well of that highway, of South Main? It seems to me, I thought I remember some discussion, but maybe we didn't do that. Because Poisson's gas station is there. I think there was some concern about that. I just want to make sure if we're going to be changing things, we don't leave a little strip in the middle. DeCarlo?
Yeah, my recollection is that you all wanted just to revisit the conversation because of you wanted to zoom out to see the full context before going back in again. I don't think that there was a vote taken. And so now you would all, it's coming to a head to make an actual decision because there was different discussions of different things that you might want to do there.
Okay, so everything on the east side is compact residential in the hatch.
No, if Ally zooms in, I think the way we left it is we resolved going down the hill on the east side, but what's in the hash mark on both sides of South Main, only 2 lots in on the east, and then all of the
Right.
side streets on the left. We need to decide which one of these categories we want to put it in.
Yeah, that was the point I was trying to make. Not very well, apparently. Dana?
Yeah, I'll just point out, I mean, we talked briefly about Poissons. They're currently in zoning. There are 3 parcels zoned neighborhood business on that side of the street. 2 of them are businesses that have closed within the last, I'll say, 20 years. And then there's Poissons. So I just wanted to clarify that for the committee, because when you look at the current zoning map, it's a little bit jarring to see 3 neighborhood businesses that are just single parcels.
Yeah. All right, so discussion on a future land use map in regards to that hatched area on South Main. Matt? Riley, I'll get to you.
So I guess just in looking at this, you can't help what exists when you're thinking about planning, right? And so looking at this, I don't see a material difference between what we've already decided last meeting was compact residential and the west side, which looks like the same kind of neighborhood and built in that style. And I know I've been on the roads there, they're small. Like, it just doesn't feel like it fits a more intensive use in that particular area. So I would say, I would vote for mixed use compact residential for that.
Okay. Riley?
I actually agree with Matt. The what exists there are a bunch of small residential lots, and because it's hooked up to sewer and water, the state already is allowing multifamily on it. So the difference between compact residential and mixed use is larger businesses, and I don't think there's existing room for that. So I would agree with Matt and keep it compact residential.
Okay. Further discussion? And that was the point I was trying to make when we originally brought it up and had the map, was that both of those sides of the street were very similar in their infrastructure and how they've been built out. All right. Is there further discussion? Are you ready for the question. The question is moving that hatched area on the map, in the hatch area, good portion of which is on the west side of South Main, from mixed-use neighborhood to compact residential. If you're in favor, you'll vote yes. If you're opposed, you'll vote no. All those in favor of that motion? 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, all those opposed? 1, 2, 3 opposed, the rest are in favor. All right, so is there anything else in that particular neighborhood? Yes,
Well,
down by
the
towards
purple
the river, yeah.
I think the purple piece is on the other side of the river. But the question I have for Lauren and Ally, when I'm looking at the online GIS, Mill Street up to 13th is white, to me, meaning we didn't resolve it, but that's not what shows here. So my question is, did we resolve it or didn't we resolve it?
It's my recollection we did not resolve it.
We didn't talk about
And I think it might be white because you might have a layer that's turned off on your GIS.
So
Yeah, so I have the hash mark things turned off so they show up as white, so it's easy to see what, so that's just my question. I know we dealt with the Resource Center and the Barker area, but this would be Mill Street from there up to about 13th Street, right? Yeah, right in that area. Have we resolved that or not?
No.
No, we haven't.
I can see now it's actually slightly darker in color, so there is something else, like, yeah.
Yep.
So it's that slightly darker area, okay.
Yeah, and I think the Little Androscoggin River bounds, I think, on the westerly side.
Yep.
So it's bound by the Little Androscoggin River and that portion which is mixed-use residential, a big mixed-use neighborhood.
So what's the question with this
So the
area?
question is, should we move that? Currently, there's, I think the zoning that was there originally, well, so, not zoning, excuse me, the land use map, I think indicated that was a corridor, mixed-use corridor, something like you have on Minot Avenue. You know?
I feel like it had to have been a mistake to make that mixed use corridor. I just don't think it makes any sense there at all.
I think
Yeah.
it might have been a cartography
Yeah.
glitch. Matt?
I concur.
Okay, so we have a motion to move that area into mixed-use neighborhood?
So moved.
Okay, so there's a second.
Second.
All right. Now, you ready for the question? Question is to move that area that's in the mixed-use corridor to mixed-use neighborhood. If you're in favor, you'll vote yes. If you're opposed, you'll vote no. All those in favor? Okay. It's unanimous. Now, I'm not sure the order next tally on the map. A little bit further up, there's this sort of peninsula that kind of sticks out. I don't know if that's the next one up or not, on the same corridor.
So we have two more. One is down here on the same side of the river, and then the other is this little area right here. And then the industrial parcel up here.
Yeah, so sticking with the same side of the river for now is that area that's on the east side of the river, and I'm not sure, what was the proposed zoning? Was that part of the corridor, or?
It was the same mixed-use corridor being
Yeah.
proposed to mixed-use neighborhood.
Yeah, so it seems like that's just an artifact that's sticking out there and we should make that as mixed-use neighborhood as well.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Okay, you ready for the question? The question is, this area that's hanging out there by itself as mixed-use corridor be changed from that to mixed-use neighborhood. If you're in favor, you'll vote yes. If you oppose, you'll vote no. All those in favor, raise your hand. Passes unanimously. All right, so I think that takes care of the east side of the river. What do you have next on the, on your map, Alan?
On the same map as the first mixed-use neighborhood change that we just made are these two parcels, and a committee member proposed changing these both as well from mixed-use corridor to mixed-use neighborhood.
Okay, and that's,
What street is that?
I think
This
that's,
is Carroll Lane, and then this is Washington Street. I'll zoom out a little bit.
so, yeah,
That dead end, that's Karen Lane right there. Is that right? Where the dead end comes in there?
Yeah, that's correct.
yeah. So this is on that downhill side that goes towards Washington Street, headed south.
It-
I believe.
Is this currently it's like a residential facility? Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah, who's next?
So the reason I brought this up, I sent the stuff to Ally and Lauren, was that that's residential facility there now. And the idea would be to split that. It doesn't really fit in the end of Cleve Street, the end of Karen Lane, with what you'd have off Washington Street.
So, yeah, so you want to, what do you want to change, suggesting and change it to?
I just note that the lot to the left would be a split lot.
Yeah, it would be mixed-use neighborhood, residential, from industrial, is that right?
You could do it either way and
okay.
just extend it out on each side of Karen Lane. I don't have any strong preference whether it's mixed use or whether it's compact, but I was just pointing out it shouldn't be industrial.
Yeah,
I would propose that the northern lot is mixed-use residential and the southern lot become compact residential. I realize that we're splitting that lot. So yeah, so that we match what is actually to the north and west of each of those. I think that bigger lot that would be split is maybe something we could talk about, but I don't feel really strongly about it.
okay. Somebody want to make a motion? Further discussion before we do that? You want to make a motion? Oh, I'm sorry, Dana?
Could you just repeat what you're proposing, what that zoning to be? Is it the mixed use? Is that what it is?
I'll do that as a motion. So I would move to make the parcel underneath the cursor at the moment, change that to mixed use residential. And at the same time, I would make the current area under the cursor compact residential.
It would be mixed-use neighborhood. Mixed-use neighborhood to the north, compact residential to the south.
Second.
Okay. Any further clarification? You ready for the question? Well, you've heard what the motion is in regards to those two lots. If you're in favor, you'll vote yes. If you oppose, you'll vote no. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Let's see here. Where am I at for that Okay, so, Ally, what do you have for your next map here?
The next one,
Okay. Oh, that, that industrial piece, yep.
this
Okay.
area here along
Let me get caught up here.
the railroad.
Right. This is that industrial piece that's on Poland Road? No, I'm sorry, which one is it?
This would be on the east side of Washington Ave, down by Alveston Street, where Maine Oxy is. And
Oh, yeah, okay.
my recollection is it's currently zoned as industrial, but I think we had it as mixed-use corridor, right, in our map, and that's my question. What should we do with this? Should we leave it the way it is, or should it be industrial? Because everything that's there is industrial now. You know, this is
Yeah.
down off Hutchins Street, Alveston Way, where Maine Oxy, where the wire factory is, and that type of stuff.
Yeah.
I will add too that the proposed industrial extends a bit farther than our current zoning for industrial extends. And so our industrial zone ends about just south of the Rotary, so to the east, whereas this industrial follows that tail. So I just wanted to make a note that it would actually be extending industrial into what is existing T51.
And just to be clear, it's very confusing when you look at the map, but those parallel lines are not lot lines. That's the former Lewiston Auburn Railroad Corporation right-of-way, which is now abandoned. There's no tracks there. I mean, there may be some residual tracks, but there's no railroad service. So it's a weird piece of land. That lot comes way down with a tail along the river.
Yeah.
So, so Mayor Herman, you might know this, or maybe Dennis, where's the Riverwalk extension gonna run?
The Riverwalk extension is going to go exactly where those parallel lines are on the city-owned railroad right-of-way. So it'll come up, if you're familiar with where Moulton Field ends at Hutchins Street, it'll come, that's right at the top of where this picture is, so it'll continue right up along behind Maine Oxy and along the river there on the right-of-way.
So the committee needs to decide whether this should stay industrial and be extended farther, or if that industrial use might be moved into a mixed-use corridor. If the Riverwalk and Trail is extending through here, might make sense to phase into mixed-use corridor, but that's the conversation as a potential change in land use that the committee needs to discuss. Or to keep it industrial.
Well, yeah, and just to be clear, whatever we do with this, you can't, that tail piece is non-accessible, right? There's no legal authority to grant a crossing of that former right-of-way. There's no access to that point off Washington Street. The only way you can get in there is to go down to Maine Oxy and drive in part of their way, or go in Hutchins Street where the, you know, the big yellow building where they used to make the wire dog pens and that type of stuff. So it doesn't really matter what we make it, you can't get to it anyways.
What is it currently?
So the tail piece is currently T51, and then Ally has the industrial zoning up just north of that. So the teal, turquoise, is T51. The purple is industrial.
And that's its
You call it-
current zoning.
Yes, right,
Yeah.
right. So give it, Becky,
Well, just to clarify, Jeff, what you just said, there's no access to it. It's kind of an abandoned zoning issue, but if the Riverwalk, I'm just you know, I'm visual. If the Riverwalk extends and you can get to it through Maine Oxy, which is currently industrial, or the the cage company, could they increase industrial right down to the edge of the Riverwalk?
Jeff?
I don't know that it matters what you zone it. I don't think there's room to build anything there. It's very, very narrow. They can't build anything on the right-of-way because the Lewiston Auburn Railroad Company deeded the right-of-way to the city. And the city's plan, of course, is to make the multimodal path there. So you can't build anything on that. I don't have any strong feeling. I think we could zone it whatever we want. I mean, make a land use characteristic, but I don't think you can actually develop anything there.
Oh, DiCarlo, sorry.
The only thing I'll add about this is that when you're making trails and places for people, you want eyes on those locations. And so please keep that in mind if there's a plan to make a trail down this location, that you want to design it so you do have eyes on it. Because if you do not have eyes on it, then the uses can become a nuisance. And so we want to avoid making things a nuisance, and we want to make sure that these are places that it's designed to make great places for people.
So is there a land use category that would increase eyes or not diminish eyes, or?
And so any use that's going to increase people, and so it could be residential or it could be commercial, it would increase eyes on that area. Industrial as it is, you have less people but more commercial use, and we are talking about transitioning. The real question is, are you ready to transition this area in the next 10 years? That's actually the question you're asking. If the answer is yes, then you go that way. If the answer is no, then you go the other way.
Jeff?
Yeah, so I don't see what the rest of the group thinks, but this is, I don't think there's any thought that where this area is around Maine Oxy that we're planning transitioning that to anything else. I think the trail goes by it. Once you go by Maine Oxy, where that little narrow part, the widest piece there is 100 feet. So there's not really any room to build anything there anyways. And it's all the same lot.
Rick?
I think the industrial zoning is just from history of Barker Mill, which was industrial until the late 70s, and the box factory, which I guess is wire cage thing or something now, but that's been on the market. And there's really nothing else and not much to be developed, so to me it just makes sense to go to some sort of mixed use to get eyes on it, and there could be potential for housing development, at least in that old factory. I think it's been considered for that a couple of times.
Okay. Somebody prepared to make a motion? Yeah, Matt?
So if there's part of that, like that blue part feels to me between the river, you have shoreland restrictions, and the road, nothing's ever going to get built there.
Right.
Why don't we do something like make that open space or whatever is appropriate to the trail that's actually going to be there? The industrial stuff, I don't know where buildings start and end, so I wouldn't know where to make that boundary, but it just feels like that tail. And DiCarlo, I hear exactly what you're saying, but if there's no way to get eyes on it, I don't see why we don't just call it what it's going to end up really being.
Sure. Okay. Do you want to make that as a motion?
That would also be introducing a new land use category. I think in the descriptions that we have,
Yeah.
there's quality of life amenities, trails, connectivity, parks and open space that could cover that from a variety of different perspectives. I think industrial, as the description, is the only one that doesn't really have the stronger open space, parks, trail components to it.
Oh, it's a mixed, yeah, okay. So perhaps mixed-use neighborhood fits in there for that purpose better. Oh, I'm sorry.
Would that be mixed-use neighborhood or mixed-use corridor? There's room in mixed-use corridor, is what I just heard you say, for that.
Yeah,
That's fine. I don't have any problem with that.
this is mixed-use corridor on the map as it is today.
Dennis?
Move to make that parcel mixed-use corridor.
Okay,
Second.
moved and seconded. Discussion?
Can I just add a comment here? So I'm looking at the parcel viewer on the current zoning map for the city, and it appears that the industrial section of this zone goes right through a building. So if we do anything here, maybe we move it down so that the zone is actually encompassing the whole building.
And can I just
strange.
clarify, is the committee voting on the tail or the whole thing?
My motion pertained to the tail.
The tail.
Oh,
Did we second? Second.
okay. Yeah,
So my question about, I go back to why I brought this up to the first place. We currently have it proposed as mixed-use corridor. There isn't a corridor there. There's not even a road. If you go to the current parcel viewer, we stop the mixed-use corridor on Washington Street. You then have an active railroad track, and then 100 feet from that, you have the abandoned railroad right-of-way that the trail's going to go on. I don't know what we're gonna do with this, but mixed-use corridor doesn't seem right because there's no corridor, there's not even a road.
So in the description of mixed-use corridor, it does talk about tree-lined streets, buffered sidewalks, and integrated open spaces and parks create an attractive public realm along major corridors. And so this says the potential river walk could fall to be alongside a major corridor. So the description might encapsulate that, but it also might not.
Jeff?
Well, I understand what you're saying, but there's no road. I go down through this area on the trail all the time with my dog. There is no road here. There's an active railroad track. Between the railroad track and the abandoned right-of-way are active industrial businesses today. And then there's the right-of-way, and then you're right into shoreland zoning. So, to me, our corridor designation, we were talking about places like Center Street and Minot Avenue, not places where there's no road. So, to me, mixed-use corridor doesn't fit in any way with this because the things we have mixed-use corridor for presume there's vehicular traffic. There isn't any here.
Adam?
I think you touched on what my question was going to be at the very end. Is there anything that requires our definition of corridor include vehicular traffic? Because the definition you were reading to me sounds like a corridor, a space for moving that's not solely defined as vehicular traffic.
Rick?
Adam raises a good point. I mean, is Whitman Spring Road a corridor? You know,
John?
Bruce?
Would it make sense to just extend the land use category that we have adjacent to it to the end of the border?
The land use category adjacent to it.
So the adjacent land use categories to this piece of land, these pieces of land, why don't we just extend it over and cover that piece of land?
Jeff?
So that's what was proposed. But here's what we're doing. We're taking a very small area that has always been industrial use and is an active and growing industrial business, and we're saying you can't have that there anymore. So if we were to make this that land use characteristic as we flow this through for the zoning, Maine Oxy cannot do anything on that lot because it won't qualify. So that's why I brought this up, is I get it, it's weird that we have this hunk of industrial area in this, but it's because there's current active industrial businesses there between the railroad tracks and the river. We still have the corridor designation all the way down Washington Street and the first lots. This is only to the east of that after you go past the active railroad tracks. So it just doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't fit to me to say we got an active industrial businesses there and we're gonna make it something with no thought to transition to some other type of activity. Well, I think it should be industrial. That's why I raised that question, but
Dennis?
Didn't we hear that industrial is the only land use category we have that doesn't accommodate trails? Is that what we heard from staff? So do we just include that in our industrial definition? I mean,
so, planners, what do you think? Can we change a definition or add to the definition? I'm not getting a response.
I'm
Milan.
pondering.
So, I mean, I don't know why we'd have to reinvent the wheel here, because when I'm looking at the mixed-use corridor, the last sentence, the last paragraph, which Lauren kind of paraphrased, includes site design standards that have, buffered sidewalks, integrated open space and parks, create an attractive public realm along major corridors. And this isn't directly on Minot Ave, which the corridor mostly covers, but this would be a different avenue of people going, leaving the city, coming into the city, which I would, accept as a definition of a corridor. It's people, it doesn't have to be vehicles, but it could be people moving from one place to another in mass to get to where they need to go, right? And so, I'm comfortable with the motion that was made to keep it in the mixed-use corridor.
Okay? Rick?
Yeah, just to clarify this, I agree 100% what Belial said. That is what the land use characteristic is on Washington Avenue. We're talking about a piece of land for which there is no public road access. There's no road here. We're not proposing to change the mixed-use corridor along Washington Street to industrial. If you think about this, this is when you come down the Rotary. Like if you're coming up Washington Street, you come down the Rotary, and you have the old car dealership in the middle of the Rotary on the right, on the left. On the right is Alveston Way. It crosses a railroad track on private property for which there's no public road in there, and there's an industrial business. So if the thought is make this mixed-use corridor, great. No one's going to do any of those things that we talk about in mixed-use corridor because there's no way to do any of that or to even get there. There's no road.
Rick?
I think Dennis had the solution to just say that you could have trails in industrial, and I think of the trail that goes from Gardner all the way to Augusta, and you walk behind an oil company, and there's a gas station, and there's a, like a 7-Eleven type business, and probably a lot of pot stores now, but and then Sunrise Trail in Washington County, you've got a cormorant's nest, and then people blasting by on four-wheelers and people going to the grocery store in their four-wheeler. So I think you can have mixed use for your trail, including industrial.
Matt?
So I think I'm going to concur with both Dennis and Rick here. I have ridden a ton of these multi-use trails, and they're always, so two things. One, they're always going through stuff like Rick says. But the second is, if we want to actually think seriously about transportation networks that don't involve cars, then exclude and allow somebody to say ride their bike to work in an industrial zone, excluding trails from the industrial zone, this land use type actually makes no sense. So I would really actually be in favor of adding some kind of trail access to that kind of a space.
All right, so did Carlo?
Sorry, I just had my hand up previously, so I just wanted to complete the thought. And so I understand both sides. Eastern Trail goes right by Pratt Whitney, which is a heavy industrial use, and it goes on the CMP corridor through many towns and many counties. You've already mentioned the one on Sunshine in Washington County. This one it's not. You don't see me jumping up and down because whether it's an industrial or a corridor, the trail is what's going to be important in the development of that. And either way it goes, it's definitely going to be fine. In the next 10 years, you might hear from the landowners themselves on what they want to do in their future plans, and that will inform your next 10 years. And so this is really just about your next step in your next 10 years and going forward. And so I don't have strong feelings either way. So I think you were right to go on to the next step. He's like, I'm finishing this up, John. So I just wanted you to know from a planner's point of view.
All right, so if I remember correctly, Matt, I think you originally made a motion to make this a...
Dennis's motion is active, and it's to make the tail.
Dennis, okay.
So that either needs to be withdrawn or voted on or whatever.
Adam?
Would we even need that motion since the proposed use presently is mixed-use corridor?
Well, we've had a lot of discussion about the fact that there's no road there, so I think that's what trips people
I think you're missing my question. My question is, I don't think we need a motion to do something that is already the current status of it on the map. So that motion probably wasn't in order.
Okay, well, what I was trying to identify, Adam, is that we have a motion on the floor. And we either have to withdraw the motion or we need to vote on it. Okay? I think you remember that. So
I'll withdraw my motion.
Great, so that cleans that up. So now we don't have a motion on the floor. Dennis?
I'd like to move that in the description of the industrial zone in the density and form section that we add language in there where we talk about landscaping and open space buffers, that trail access be permitted in that area as well.
Okay, second to that motion.
Second.
Okay. So we're going to speak to this. Is everybody clear on what the motion is? Okay, if you're in favor, you'll vote yea to add that additional language as described. If you're opposed, you'll vote nay. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Now, somebody needs to remind me, do we need to change anything here? Jeff?
Yeah, so I would move, so to Adam's point, I agree completely with his observation that the way this sits on the map today is corridor. And I would move that we change it from corridor to industrial from the end of Hutchins Street to the end of the lot where Maine Oxy is. It goes from the end of Hutchins Street all the way down that tail. It's all one lot.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any other questions or discussion about the motion?
That's already corridor. It wouldn't change. This, what we're talking here is on the other side of the track, so it would be behind Charlene.
Okay, everybody clear on the motion? If you're in favor, you'll vote yea. If you're opposed, you'll vote nay. All those in favor? Looks like it's unanimous. Good, thank you. Ally, what's the next one you have?
The next one is an area that's currently mixed-use neighborhood. Committee member proposed to change these 3 parcels right here to mixed-use corridor. That would align with the mixed-use corridor surrounding the street frontage.
Jeff?
Yeah, I would move that the 3 lots shown on the map be changed from, it's compact residential now to mixed-use corridor.
Second.
John?
Jeff?
So the large lot is Clover Manor. And the small lot there on the left is actually going to be part of where the new fire station is.
Okay. Is everybody clear about the location? Any further questions or clarifications? If you're in favor, you'll vote yea. If you're opposed, you'll vote nay. All those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. Ally, what's the next one?
The next one, just move geographically, is a lot here that is currently compact residential with the proposal to convert that to industrial. This is Poland Road right here and Pride Road bisecting that.
Right, and this is where Hammond Lumber
That's
Company
Hammond Lumber.
is located, or at least on the industrial side, they're located. And they own the lot in question as well. It's in a different zone. Are there questions? You'll recall that this did come 3 years ago, maybe? You were on the, I think, on the Dana?
Yeah.
And the council chose not to make a change at that time. And there were neighbors who there testified to the effect that they weren't supportive of making that change. So the question really becomes, and why it should be here in my view, is that questions like this should be discussed while we're doing the comprehensive plan and not necessarily just pop up as a single item portion of a lot. And we should look at it from the holistic picture that we're trying to work on. Are there, is it clear what the intent here is with change, Adam?
Is the intent to essentially effectuate the change that wasn't made 3 years ago?
Well, they were asking for a zoning change at the time. So this is not a zoning change. The question here is to how you would have it as a land use category. Zoning would have to be dealt with in the zoning portion sometime later. But the intent is to see if it would be consistent. If we change it, then it would be an opportunity to consider it in a zoning change to make it consistent. Which, if we didn't make the change, it would be inconsistent to change it in zoning. Jeff?
Just to clarify for this, the issue with the zoning change had nothing to do with the use. It was the owner's refusal to agree to the buffering and they cut a whole bunch of trees down there, and they came Dana was on the council, right? They came at once or twice over a period of years, and that was the issue. They wouldn't commit to actually planting the trees and doing the buffering to put the parking lot there. So, you know, whether that happens or not, I don't know, but it seems like this is where the hash mark is there now. That's all part of Hammond Lumber's land. And if we were to say this is compact residential, we're going to go through the rezoning, and the only thing you're going to be able to build on that's housing. And if you change this land use category, whether they can actually use that for the parking lot or not, it's going to be the same exercise. Riley was there, I think, too. They'd have to come back, and Paul was there, and have to go back through this thing again, whether they get approval or not. But it just, because of the way this is laid out, it didn't seem to make sense to me that this would continue, that we would make this compact residential.
Yeah. And just to underline what Jeff is saying, should the current owner come back and want to use it for commercial purpose, and it was then zoned to allow that, it would have to go through a planning board review in regards to issues like buffering and minimizing impacts on the residential neighborhood. Rick?
I just want to say that I think members of the city council were very frustrated because the neighborhood was angry, and the owner of the commercial property wasn't very cooperative. And we felt like if the owner had just worked a little better with the neighborhood, we could have agreed to do an expansion that would have been a win-win for everybody. And it's unfortunate it didn't work out that way, but I'd like to see it work out that way in the future rather than chase them out of town.
Dana?
Yeah, I don't want to dig up a lot of this, but there were issues between the neighbors and the owner, and it seems like it was a feud that I don't know. I didn't want to get in the middle of it, but everything Jeff said and Rick said is completely correct. Now, the one thing I will point out here is that there's currently a house on this lot.
That's been
Or did they tear it down?
They tore it
Okay.
down.
Okay, so that's gone. I was trying to figure out where that was. All right.
Matt?
Yep.
Oh, Matt?
So I see this little chunk is substantially smaller than the footprint of Hammond Lumber. Is there a reason why is that a single lot? Is that what we're actually just looking at? It's a separate lot from the rest of Hammond Lumber? Okay.
Yeah. And then the previous owner, that's where they lived. Peter Allen, who owned it previously, lived there. And
So if you look at this, to the right of the gray, you can see the outlines of the building. There's a very large warehouse, and the trucks and people picking up materials come into that, go right through it and come out the other side. So this is all in the Hammond footprint. As John says, the owner lived in that building. Hammond later on bought it, tore the house down, and then we had this whole debacle about the parking area. So it never got, it's just sitting there as an empty grass in front of the warehouse right now.
And if I remember correctly, I think there was an understanding or an agreement, the widow lived in the house. And I think the understanding was she could live in the house as long as she was still there. But after that, the property was owned by Hammond. They would make different decisions on what they would like to do with it. Dennis?
Yeah, so I'm back in the industrial description and density and form, and it says, low-rise buildings, ample exterior storage, parking, significant landscaping or open space buffers between adjacent uses. And so regardless of whether Hammond was a good neighbor or a bad neighbor, if that parcel gets zoned industrial, our land use form still says that they should be complying with significant buffering. And so for that reason, I'd move to change this over to industrial.
Dana?
Yeah, and I think I support that. I'll second it, but and I'll just continue saying that I think that in a 10-year plan, it makes sense to allow for amends to be made, and I don't think that we should prevent that by not doing this.
Okay. So, was that a motion that you? Okay,
I'd
it's been
second
moved
that.
and seconded.
Yep.
Further discussion? Okay. Adam?
Everything everybody's making makes complete sense, and the motion makes complete sense to me. My only hesitation is sometimes people parse these documents to try to find intent that may not be evident from just the text, and I'm just very fearful that this is us blessing a neighbor who didn't behave very well with their own neighbors, and I'm hoping that they behave better.
Yeah.
And that this gets enforced that way.
And that'll be the purpose of public comment, public input, and what we do, we need to explain. All right, any further questions? You ready for the question? You're in favor, you'll be changing the zoning to industrial on that lot. If you're opposed, and you vote yea. If you're opposed, you'll vote nay. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. It is unanimous. Ally, I look for your continued direction.
Moving down. Turn my colors back on. The next, or the last few areas here are two, so this corridor here, and maybe start with this area that's circled. Committee member proposed changing this from mixed-use corridor, which runs up here, to industrial, which are these purple areas here.
Yeah. And this is near where the turnpike is, and that hatched area is the Foster Road, if I'm correct.
The existing zoning of that gray parcel is industrial.
Yeah, so so we're looking at those three parcels, is it, that are grayish right now, that are corridor? Mixed-use corridor. And the suggestion is to change that to industrial. Questions about this?
John, so this is industrial land today. I'm not sure along the way here how we got this changed over to a different categorization, but we extended kind of the lightish purple all the way down between them. And we can do that, but it's industrial land and being used for industrial purposes today. So I think the idea is to join the two industrial sides there.
Matt?
Make a motion to make those parcels, move them to the industrial land use type.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Is it clear? Dana?
I'm just trying to follow along here, and I want to make sure I'm looking at the right place on the map.
Yeah.
So this is Foster Road, you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sort of at this.
I see it.
Yeah, I see it right there.
Right here. Oh, right here.
Yeah, right in there.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? You ready for the question? If you're in favor, the motion will be to change this grayish area to industrial. If you're in favor, you'll vote yea. If you're opposed, you'll vote nay. All those in favor of making the change, raise your hand. It is unanimous. Next area, Ally.
So the next one is immediately south of that, and that is currently on your map as mixed-use corridor, and the proposed change is to compact residential.
Jeff?
Yeah, so I think this is the same thing. We extended this all the way down to the turnpike. Today, that's residential across there, so I think what we should do is leave the mixed use where it ends above the action we just took and extend this compact residential, you know, where the yellow hash mark is. So I'd move that we change that to compact residential.
I'll second that.
Okay, been moved and seconded. Is there any questions about that? Yeah?
Yeah, I'm just looking further down, and it seems like the land immediately to the west in the purple hash is one of the next things that we'll talk about.
Yes.
And that's going to industrial, and so I guess I just want to have, I see that the current land use of the parcels that we're talking about now is rural residential.
Yeah, that's not correct. The purple hash, Lauren can tell us what it is. I don't think the proposal's to make an industrial. That's where that hash is the current low-density country residential strip along Foster Road. And I think, Lauren, I can't remember what the proposal was there, but it was to change the residential type, correct?
It was to change it from compact residential to industrial.
Or really to prompt a conversation about that area in terms of what parcels, because some of it's split between industrial and compact residential, and if the committee wants to amend some of those splits to talk about the wedge that this strip is between two industrial areas. So that was just not that entire area can be transitioned to industrial because there's existing residential. It's to prompt conversation about that road.
Yeah.
Well, let's dispose of the piece that we have the motion first, then we can talk about Foster Road.
Right. So that's correct.
Yeah.
Further questions or discussion? You ready for the question? The motion is to change that wedge-shaped yellow piece to compact residential. If you're in favor, you'll vote yes. If you're opposed, you'll vote no. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? There's one abstention from Bruce. I'm in favor. Yeah, that's fine. No. Doesn't have to be unanimous every time, Bruce. I'm counting on you to not make it that way sometimes. All right, so the motion prevails. Now we're going to go with the Foster Road area. There it is. And as was being introduced by Lauren, the question is, before we finish our work completely with the mapping, is to have an opportunity about this particular strip of land, which is between two industrial zones, and this is a residential zone, low-density country residential currently. Obviously, there's some residential development there, and there is some industrial development. And what do you do going forward?
John, there's no industrial development in this strip.
Oh.
So there's industrial to the north and the south, and this is currently
Yeah.
I'm
sorry, that's
the
what I
piece
meant.
to the right is a strip zone.
Yeah.
And it's there, that's all all residential out there, and the one big lot that you see on the town line, below that, right there, that they're currently in the process of subdividing that into additional residential lots.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I meant abutting it was industrial. Yeah. O'Reilly.
There's,
So,
I don't know, you can't bring up the map, or can you bring up the sewer and water map? There's no sewer, there we go.
It's
Boom.
the darkest purple color.
Thank you. That was going to be that was the information I was looking for. I couldn't find it on my layers.
Yeah, that's
So-
water, where the water and sewer is.
This is an interesting one from a planning perspective. Looking back at comp plan history in 2010, it was proposed by the committee at the time to put this into industrial or not expand or increase residential use. And then it made it to the council and then was voted down. And so we're revisiting it for understanding that there's more residential uses happening out there. And so that's the reason why we're having this conversation. On the board, on the TV, you'll see that there's parcels within 200 feet of water and sewer. So it's just, if it's this compact residential in our growth area, it's subject to change and have more residential density potentially.
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah, just to sort of orient people as to what's going on out there. So the road in the industrial zone to the north side of Foster Road, right there, that's Cascade Drive, right? Where you come out off Lewiston Junction Road, that's Cascade Drive where the business park is. To the south of this is Auburn Concrete's pit, right? So it's industrial, but you're not going to get additional industrial development there because it is a giant hole in the ground. So I think that was what happened before, which is there's already houses along both sides of Foster Road, and you have the pit to the south. So I think that was the reasoning why they left it as residential before, because it's unlikely that you're going to get industrial expansion into those lots that are residential already on Foster Road.
John?
Well,
a lot of that land was purchased by the Auburn Business Development Corporation. So off of Kitty Hawk, there is an industrial park where the distribution center for Kellogg is, and Bisson Transportation, I believe, has a warehouse there for paper. And there is I think it's the Royal Brook that goes through there. And originally, when ABDC was developing that, there was a thought about bridging the Royal so that we would have more industrial land. So if the city, if for the next 10 years we feel we have enough industrial land available, I guess maybe we don't have to worry about it, but that was originally planned to be industrial land.
thanks for that update. Any other questions or comments? So the task before us is to determine what this group feels the land use category should be. Does someone have a motion that they would like to try? Jeff?
So it's currently in our plan compact residential, so unless somebody wants to change it to something else, no motion's necessary.
Okay. Rick?
I think I'd be inclined to leave it compact residential, and I really don't have much recollection from 2010, other than I think the committee was probably a little aggravated about having this split between two industrial zones, but it had been done a long time before we got there, and there wasn't much we could do about it, and here we are again, and what are you gonna do about it, you know?
John?
Bruce?
People should know that if they build a house there, that it's in the flight path. So it's gonna get a little noisy if the airport ever expands.
Right, yeah, yes.
And also, because it's in the flight path, we can't build really tall buildings. So,
Two-story max, probably.
that's correct.
Yeah, no, thank you for reminding us of that, and if Jonathan was here, he would definitely remind us that this is his flight path. But in industrial areas, probably the next best thing than having nothing except a flight path. All right, does that, anybody want any more conversation? You happy with leaving it just the way it is? Okay, we're gonna leave it the way it is. Okay. Next area.
So we have a conversation about the dairy farm, finally. Staff has talked with people from the Maine Farmland Trust about different programming and different avenues for protection for agricultural farmers and this dairy farm in particular. And I had conversations with our assessing office as well, and to see what the potential tax impact would be if this moved from agricultural to a higher density, higher growth area. And what was determined was the lot or lots owned by the dairy farmers are enrolled in the farmland tax program, and so they wouldn't face any tax burden or impacts from putting this in the high growth area, which was the committee discussion, was if the committee were to put this in the high growth area, we want to make sure that the dairy farm operations would be protected and not face burden and drive them out of town. There is one about 2-acre lot that's owned by the dairy farm that's not enrolled that would face tax impacts. And so I spoke with the owner of the lot, and he would be open to enrolling that parcel into the tax program as well. So it would be protected from any future land use changes.
The impact of taxes from a land use change. Yeah, Jeff.
So Lauren, after talking to these folks, what's the staff's recommendation? Because I think where we left this was it would either be in an ag zone, or we'd put it in industrial, conditional upon the Title VII protections being adopted by the city so they can enroll. What was there any discussion with the dairy farm about those options, and what did they think about that?
So for Title VII, that would be the Voluntary Municipal Farm Support Program, and so the municipality would have to enroll as the entire city, and so that would be an option that the city could explore, and you'll see that in your comprehensive plan policies. That wouldn't be something that would add further protection for the farmer, more so than his already enrolled parcels in the farmland tax program. So there's no additional protection that the city would have for the dairy farmer if they enrolled in the Title VII versus what they have right now, if that makes sense.
So given that the Title VII protections would have to be citywide, is the recommendation that this be agriculture in the low growth zone?
The recommendation from staff is that this would be in the high growth industrial, in this instance that the dairy farm would cease operations. It's in an area that would be, it's near the intermodal facility. It would be an area good for industrial growth. And so that's the recommendation from staff. And I have a memo from Jonathan Labonte about the recreational opportunities along the Little Androscoggin River that would remain an opportunity even if this was an industrial, and I can share that with the committee as well. That was a concern that was brought up in public comment a few months ago, is that if this area was to be moved from agricultural to industrial, you would lose some recreational opportunities there. But there's avenues to both have industrial expansion as well as preserving recreational opportunities along the river.
If I can, John. So the advice you got from the assessor's office was, if we put this in high growth industrial, the way the farmland is registered now, there would be no adverse impact on them from a property tax standpoint?
That's correct.
Okay.
Well,
Because I think that's the main concern, is if we made that change and it was an adverse tax impact, would drive them out of business because of the property tax impact.
Correct.
Yeah, but they would have to enroll that portion that's not enrolled.
Yes.
To get that protection.
Yes, and I spoke with the farmer about those 2 acres, and he would be willing to enroll that in the farmland special land use tax program.
Riley?
With the changes we voted on earlier to the industrial zone in regards to access to open space and free trails, alleviate Mr. Labani's concerns about the trail there.
That would also open up the opportunity that if there are industrial uses in that area, to have adequate buffering between residential and open space requirements.
Quick question. So I'm just looking at that area off Fletcher Road, north of the river, that little chunk. What are we thinking about that space? Because that would change the nature of Fletcher Road considerably.
Need to look at the ownership of that parcel. Looks to be owned by the Lewiston Auburn Railroad.
So
Company.
that piece that you have your cursor on,
Mm-hmm.
so the railroad company owns that. 75% of that lot's in the floodplain, so there's very little you can do with that other than, potentially what they're doing now.
Dana?
So my biggest concern here is right now keeping this parcel in the ag zone maintains the local control for the city of Auburn to protect that land. If we were to do something that would take this out of the ag zone, and then the state did something they shouldn't do and cancel the farm tax program, then it would be out of our hands. We wouldn't have that protection. We wouldn't have that ability to keep the protection. And so that's where my mind goes. I want to make sure that we preserve this as much as we can. I understand the staff's point here, and I guess I'm going back and forth on this right now. My strongest desire is to keep this farm, and so that's where I sit.
Okay, thank you, Dana. Further questions or discussions?
Can also send the different memos in text to the committee if we want to read and sit and evaluate further, and we can vote at the next meeting. Open to that as well. Sometimes it's easier to read something in full.
Adam?
I'm doing the same vacillating that Dana is doing, so I think I'd be aided in reading a little bit too.
Okay, Becky?
And that was my question also, how secure that program is that we would be relying on to make this work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get Dana's point, but the thought that arbitrarily, we have a legislator here, that the legislature is going to get rid of this. This program and these other programs like the forestry and recreational open space, these programs have been in place for decades. And so we have to think of, the issue here is to protect the farm. But the other issue is, what do you do with this if the farm's shut down? Because there are farms shutting down every day in this state. So the balancing act for the committee is, we can leave this as ag. Dana's point's correct in that you have more local control, but if they shut down their dairy farm tomorrow, you can't do it, it's ag land. If they leave, no one's coming in there to do another ag purpose. So the whole exercise here for staff was to find out long-term, given where this is and what's around it, you would put this in the industrial zone, but we don't want to do that unless we have protection for the current agricultural use. And I think the staff's point is that, given their discussion with the assessor's office, that is in place. I understand that the legislature could arbitrarily do away with this program, but that's no more or less likely than the farm shuts down tomorrow.
Adam?
I guess my ruminations are not so much predicated on the legislature getting rid of the program. It's that the staff's recommendation is based on a series of memos that I just don't have the information on right now, and I'd like to read this.
Oh, Phil.
Yeah, I was just going to build on what Mayor Harmon was saying, is that, and I understand what Adam just referred to regarding the memos, and I think that's good. I think if there was a sweeping change like that, I think that as a city, we would be coming back together to say, what action do we need to take to now protect our ag land for not just this one parcel, but for all the other properties that we currently have in ag that we would need to start pivoting and making changes to. And so, I think that's a big what if. And, but to Mayor Harmon's point, I think that this, what's the future of this parcel? And then what's the opportunity if it does shift away from being a dairy farm? Right now we're probably 3 generations on that farm currently. What's the future hold? We're not sure, but I think that at least opens an opportunity.
So, Jeff.
So I would propose that we just table this, because I
Yeah.
think there's some members that would like
Yeah.
to see the memos before we make a decision on this piece.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. That's where I was going. Was that the pleasure? We'll table this. We're going to have another meeting the end of the month, in case you didn't know. Yeah. So we can put that on the agenda again and act on it in an expeditious manner when you have a chance to see the language to do that. So we'll table this until the next meeting, if that's the pleasure of the committee. Okay? Seeing no objection. Now, I understand there may be a couple of members who have proposals we haven't seen yet. Paul, I believe, has one, and I think Jeff has one.
Before we get to that, I just want to clarify with Ally and Lauren. I don't think maybe we have it, I didn't write it down here, I might not have, but have we corrected the issue at East Hardscrabble and Harvest Hill Lane?
Okay. Yes, I think noticed that, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if we have, I can't remember if we have or we haven't.
I don't know either. But this is a little piece here I think you're referring to.
Yeah, that's exactly.
You want me to show you this little piece?
Is it this green area here?
No, East Hardscrabble Valley.
If you go up Washington Street, right there, that one that's white on your screen.
I think we missed this one.
Too many yellows together.
So my recollection was we had tagged that as mixed-use corridor, and
Yeah.
I think it probably should have been compact residential.
Yes, so this was when we made updates to this high-density core. This was an area that was included based on current zoning there. Proposed committee change to move this area here to compact residential.
So I would move that we change that to compact residential.
I'd second that.
Okay, moved and seconded. Everybody clear about where the area is and why make the change? Whoops, somebody move. And you're sitting so still. All right, So I think this one's pretty clear. Are you ready for the question? If you want to put it into compact residential, you'll vote yea. If you don't want to do that, you'll vote nay. All those in favor of moving that into compact residential, raise your hand. All those opposed, it's unanimous. Thank you for reminding me of that. Now, two other areas that I began with was, I believe, a proposal that Paul has, and I think a proposal that Jeff has. Is there a preference who wants to go first on that? Paul, you want to?
I'll take it. The gentleman, Rudy Wing, that came and spoke, his property's across from Fox Ridge Golf Course, and right next to it is a driving range. And there's already a residential corridor strip partway down Penley Corner Road from Harmon's Corner. If we just continued that strip like to the end of his property-ish, because the rest of Penley Corner is like heavily ag, super used right up to the road. Looks better than my yard, the way the cows are taking care of it. But I think that makes a lot of sense, just to continue like a residential corridor strip down Penley Corner along the golf course to whatever property lines end there.
So this isn't for the whole rest of Penley Corner, just that?
I had originally thought that, but after I drove down it, it's not going to happen. It doesn't make sense.
So could we identify on the map? Do you have enough clarity to, once we zoom into that, Paul, lots?
Is that not?
Across from the golf course.
I thought it was the golf course.
Right there. Yep.
The darker green is the golf course.
So I just want to make sure we're all looking at the same piece.
Yep.
So can you?
There's a little lot
Yeah.
It's an old church.
further west, east, whatever it is.
Just so we're clear,
That
are
one.
you talking about Mr. Wing's lot?
Yeah.
It's that small lot right there that they're pointing at now.
Everything after that is like super dairy farm stuff, which wouldn't make sense to make any changes, but that's a driving range next to him.
So rough line, as I have it, follows this parcel here, this full parcel, and then this tiny corner here.
Mr. Wing's lot's like a half an acre. Is that what that is? A half an acre?
Yes.
So I understand why Paul is proposing this. I would be opposed to this. There is a very, very, very long history that the city has relative to this lot. This is in half an acre. What Mr. Wing continually proposes, even if you make this change, cannot be built there. So that lot was deeded by two farmers, a quarter of an acre each, to create the Penley Corner Church that burned down. And then Mr. Wing bought that property and moved in there and has been under a notice of violation for I don't know how many years. And it's all ag that surrounds that. That's part of the golf course, and both parcels, everything on the other side of the road, everything that surrounds that is currently an agricultural purpose.
Further comment or discussion? Are you proposing an amendment to do that, Paul?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hey, guys.
It's a sign.
You're on the time deferred to come back now.
Oh, you can really see.
Good day, guys. Yeah, we've had that.
Dana.
So I guess I don't think it is appropriate here to get too far into the weeds here on a site plan, but is this proposed zoning going to allow him to do what he's been trying to do? I guess I'm just curious. And I know that you said no. Okay.
So, well, this, you're proposing a residential, rural residential strip.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think the response has been to do that. Even if that happens, what he wants to do can't occur there. Bruce?
From what I understand, he wanted to do something for veterans. However, if, I work at the golf course across the street, and I play golf there fairly often. He has 2 or 3 large trailers, tractor trailer boxes on the property now. He has a motorhome on the property, a dump truck. He's never kept the property in any way that shows that he takes care of it. So I would be opposed to this motion.
Any further discussion before we call the question? So the motion is to convert that lot area outline to a rural residential strip. If you're in favor, you'll vote yea. If you oppose, you'll vote nay. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All those opposed? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I believe it's 8 opposed, 5 in favor. Motion fails. Jeff?
Yeah, Ally, can you go down to the lower end of Pownell Road? Okay, zoom in on that at the end of that strip zone. So we talked about this before, and I understand the committee didn't want to extend this to the town line. So we did true this up to the lot lines. I went back and I can find no record about why mysteriously this strip zone just stopped in the middle of lots. So the situation that we have today is that strip zone is stopped. The immediate lot on the west side of the road has residential housing on it today, and directly across the street, not that lot, the next lot, right in there, across the street from that housing, another residential house is being built. And we have the empty lot with an individual who is surrounded by houses but can't build a house there. From that area to the city line, there's no housing. So I would propose again that we extend that strip zone as far down as the lot on the left, square that up across the street and up across the other lot, and just, we're allowing strip zone housing all the way out the road, except where the housing is at the end of the road.
When you say square that off, are you talking into this larger parcel
Yes.
or down to? Okay.
Yeah, just square that off and then run it up the lot line there.
So this would be split with our agriculture, open space, recreation category, and then this would be the residential corridor in this part.
And what's it called again?
Residential corridor.
Yeah, well, what we generally call it was the rural residential corridor out in the ag zone.
So to get this on the floor, John, I would move that the area that's identified on the map, that we extend the residential corridor strip down the road to where the housing ends.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion on the motion. Adam?
I'm just curious why you stopped it there where the housing is rather than go to the city line.
Well, that's where the house is. I mean, we could go all the way down the road that we want, but it's a fairly large lot, and if we did this, I think it would cover where the house is.
Further questions, Rick?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fairness thing, to have conformity. You know, that's always been an issue, and conforms it with the zoning, so.
Becky?
I just need to be refreshed why we don't go all the way to the city line. I remember we had a reason. I just don't remember. If someone could remind me why we stopped where we stopped the first time.
Well, I think the discussion at the time is that there's some very large lots there. There's no residential housing at all. It's all ag. And, you know, there was a lot of discussion about this. I could go either way, but I think in fairness, we should at least go to where the house is in.
Yeah, the rest of it is undeveloped agricultural land.
So
Dana?
I was proposed to oppose this if it went to the border of the city. I think I would support it if it's as presented here.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion?
Well, I just had another technical one. We haven't split another lot in any of this process, have we? Haven't we been trying not to split lots? And is there a reason to leave that
Well,
corner in it?
That happens along that corridor because you go a certain distance back from the center line of the road or the right-of-way. So, to go all the way back, you'd be opening up a lot of additional land.
No, I don't mean to go all the way back. I mean that tiny little square we just created is not buildable, is it?
On the big lot, Becky? Where the cursor,
Yeah,
right there?
Is that one lot, or
No.
did we just
So
make?
that's the corner of a large lot,
Right.
but that's where the house is.
I see. I thought the house was on the one above with the little square in the middle of it.
Yeah, that encompasses where the residence is. Are you ready for the question? If you're in favor of the motion to extend that rural residential strip, you'll vote yea. If you're opposed, you'll vote nay. All those in favor of the change, raise your hand. It's unanimous. I think we have covered everything in land use categories that we currently have before us, well, except to come back with the memo. So the plan will be to come back with that memo. If you have any further thoughts in regards, once you look at all of this together with the updates, okay, if you having done that review, if you feel as though we've overlooked something or something should be addressed, let me know so we can have some time for discussion on that area. But we would hope to close this up on the June 23rd meeting. Subject, of course, to public hearings, further comments, and before the Comprehensive Plan Committee makes a final recommendation. All right, so we have a little time left, which we can begin to have some discussion, open the discussion, answer questions, make clarifications in regards to policies, objections, and actions. You received this document back in May, and it lists all of the 8 sections in which there are policies, objections, and actions. So, I think I would like to begin by seeing if there are sort of broader questions that need to be answered. Did have some opportunity, some of you took advantage of it, some didn't have a comment. So now would be a time if you have broader questions. My expectation is that once we get into it in more detail, we'll go by section. So we'll begin with the first one when we get to that, which is the future land use, and then we'll proceed down. But at this point, I'll entertain the broader questions that may cross more than one section. So Dana.
Yeah, so reading through these, there's a lot of discussion as to updating city council annually. And I understand that staff already does this in a lot of different ways, both through presentations to council and through the annual report. My question is, has a gap analysis been done to determine what's already happening versus what's a new ask here? Because it seems like there's a lot of stuff here, and I know that they do a lot. It's just how much is new?
So maybe let me start with just stepping back for a minute, Phil. The concept here is that to provide in this document a means by which it's regularly looked at both by administrative folks and by the policymakers of city council, and to get updates or reports on where activity has occurred, what it has been, what's left to be done. Phil, you can talk about how that integrates into what the administration's already doing.
Yeah, I think there's different sections in here, I think, Dana, where it's also, some of this requirement is coming from committees as well, which I think is a good thing. It should be part of the reporting.
Could you speak a little bit louder for me?
Sorry. So I think that's a good thing. I think the other element to this is, I met with the council recently to discuss the FY27 work plan. And in there, we actually have this listed as a goal as going through the comp plan to identify those areas that will require reporting and creating a timeline to ensure that that's being done. I think that what's really important here is that it makes sure that something that John keeps saying is this should be a living document, not one that sits on the shelf somewhere. Creating these triggers, I think, will make sure that that's being done. And so the key is making sure we have a good system in place so that it doesn't just drop off. And then 10 years from now, you're like, I don't remember if we ever got another report on that after the first year. So that's why we're building that plan as we've outlined right now, just to frame it up to ensure that that is happening. There'll be consistency.
And I'll also add to, you'll see in the timeline we have ongoing, and that indicates things that the city has already been doing, and that will continue to happen. And I was actually making a note to ask the committee about this for the timeline, is if it makes sense to have, so you'll have actions that you complete in the short term but might want to keep going. And so we can amend the language to say this is completed in the short term but should be continued. And then ongoing can be something that the city is already doing that it will keep doing. So where you see ongoing, that's things that the city has already been thinking about or doing, which might alleviate some of the, how much are we taking on?
You know, I might say that the flip side action of that is if things change during the course of the 10 years, the report might be, this has changed, we should look at this and do something, or this has changed and we shouldn't continue on with this. So it allows an opportunity for appropriate adjustments going forward over the next 10 years. And Rex, I know you sent an email out to the staff, they responded to that. I took a look at it and with this discussion, I hope that that responds to the similar question that you had. Adam?
Well, and this was something that I think Dennis Dote emailed about, and that was the sort of TLDR, too long didn't read component of this, in that it's 80 pages. And I'm wondering, sometimes it's easier to throw a larger document onto the shelf and forget about it because it just feels too large. And so I don't have a solution to that, but I kind of had just, Dennis's emails resonated with me because I was like, yeah, this does feel super long and hard to make it.
I think it was Dennis Bergeron.
Oh, no. Never mind. Okay.
I started to believe you.
You know, sorry, now I'm crediting Dennis. You're right. TLDR.
Okay, we got lots of things. Let's have Ally bring us, comment on it.
With the length, obviously this is a lengthy document. Part of that is the formatting and the structure of how this is presented to the committee today. Policies are shrunk into a column, and that can create some length. This style of table would live in an implementation plan at the end of the full comprehensive plan, and are thinking that goals, policies, and objectives are discussed with narrative in the body of the comprehensive plan. And then this is really the implementation plan for the community to look at, but also for staff, boards, and committees to really have an anchor to expectations and other items over time.
Dennis?
Yeah, my question was exactly how this document's going to be used, because 80 pages is a lot. And at the beginning of this, we looked at other comprehensive plans, and my sense from reading those comprehensive plans was that they were way too wordy and way too long. And what I would like to see, and I think this is building that, is that the comprehensive plan gets used by the professionals in the city to guide future actions by the planning board, by the city council. And so, Ally, your description of how it's going to be used gives me comfort, but I think even having an appendix implementation plan might be able to shorten it, because I don't have anything to wordsmith in here. I think all the ideas are excellent. I think all of the follow-through is pretty good. So it was just, is this going to be readable? Is it going to be usable? And that's the sense, that's the spirit that I put those comments forward in.
DiCarlo?
I can give a little bit of guidance on implementation of comprehensive plans, at least from the planning point of view. When it's in a chart format like this is usually what I use. I take this and I usually ask the consultant for an Excel version of this, and then I go through with my filters and going, what's short term and what's ongoing, so I know what needs to be done in the first year versus what needs to be done in the 6 months. And so then I can then schedule my tasks that way, and then I can see, I take this chart and see what I need to do in the 6 months, and then I go back to the wordy document for to fill in what are the details to that. And so if you're wondering like how this document gets used by staff, at least by planning staff, that's exactly what we do, is that we take this document, see what's our responsibilities, and see the timeframes that it needs to get done, and going back to the wordy document for details for that. So,
Adam?
And I think I'm looking for the Goldilocks version, because I completely understand. Like, this looks like a planning person's document, and to a policymaker or a lawyer, it feels useless to me because it is just so large. And I get putting some of the policy stuff in the document itself, but I would almost want like a third in the middle document that it's made for a city councilor who has not gone through any of this stuff, is elected, wants to say, what is the comprehensive plan and how can I, in my 2 years on the city council, enact it? And there's that third document that they get.
Yep, just
Jeff?
Yes, I think there's lots of ways the document can be put together to serve different audiences. I don't have concerns about the length. I have concerns to make sure we have this level of detail in there, because there's been significant changes in the city in the last couple of years about how we implement things like this. So we now have a formalized process where the city council would go through this chart in a very similar way to what DiCarlo is describing, and decide on an annual basis from the implementation plan what we're charging the city manager to do. So I hear the point. If we just throw 80 pages of this out there and expect everyone's going to consume that, it's probably not going to work. We need to have some way to summarize it, but we do need to include this level of detail so we have a way to, in effect, assign goals from this plan to the city manager so that he can operationalize this with staff.
Yeah.
I just want to second everything that Jeff just said. I actually really, as city councilor, I love this document. Like, yeah, it's 85 pages. I've read it a couple times already. I forgot everything that's in it, but I know that there's stuff in there, right? So I really do think, for me, this is useful. I'm not sure it's useful if you're not kind of in the weeds, but we, as city councilors, that's kind of our job, I think.
Ellie?
And just for the full committee's awareness, when we have this implementation piece that will be used by staff, the community for a long time, there'll be the document, the narrative piece with that, and then that'll be kind of that in-between Adam, and then as part of our scope as well, have a plan at a glance, so like a very, very abbreviated, could be printed out on a tabletop type of document, so spanning kind of 3 levels of need there, with the final versions, this being the basis for all of those.
Dana?
Yeah, and so I think where I stumble here a little bit is this reads very much like a performance kind of plan or a goal-oriented. I see exactly where Mayor Harmon's coming from here. I think my hang-up here is that typically when I've created these for teams that I've managed, it's been a year, right? So this is a 10-year plan. And if you read through these things, there's an awful lot of stuff that's short-term. There's plenty of ongoing things, but it doesn't, one thing that it doesn't do particularly well at this detail level is figure out, well, what does year 7 look like? You know, I think there's
what look like?
Year 7 of the 10-year plan.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
after you knock out all the short-term things, there's a couple medium-term things, some longer-term things. But I mean, it doesn't have a line of sight that's 10 years long. And at this detail level, I just wonder how useful is this beyond, say, 2-3 years? It seems like there's plenty here, but if staff follows this to the T, saying this is the short-term goals, then these goals will be done and the plan will stagnate, is my fear.
Well, let me respond to a couple of things here. It's taken a while to put all of this together, and it was intentional because we wanted to get input from the administrative staff in regards to the aspirational goals, well, aspirational action items that the committee had put together some time ago. To look at it to see what the staff was doing, how it would be ongoing, how they would work with the document, what some things are either in process or some things perhaps that might have been suggested that the cities just didn't have the authority or resources to achieve it. So we went through a lengthy process with the staff looking at this in detail and commenting on it. The other point I want to make is, if you take a look at things like the infrastructure, many of these things which require expenditures, it tries to integrate it into the process. So every year you have to do a capital improvement plan. And the capital improvement plan has been 5 years, and the goal is to have a longer term one for 10 years. What this does is direct that identifying if you have a task to accomplish that requires the allocation of capital dollars, that you show how you considered that in your capital improvement plan to meet the goals. So it's a document that helps integrate what's already happening to achieve the goals and to hear updates on how are we doing, not only that, but what would it take to achieve it, where would we get the resources to do it, to accomplish it the way we want. So I think that it tries to put together the operational aspects of what we do here into the vision of what the community wants and to show how that will be accomplished over time. All right, Jeff, I guess.
Yeah, so I think Dana's point here is well taken, and I think when you read this, it is quite front-end loaded, because I think there's more clarity about short-term and what can be done. I think that I don't look at this as saying this matrix is here for 10 years and it's just 10 years and we'll work on it. I'm assuming as we move forward and we can see more, we'll update this. I think it's really important to have the level of specificity and to have that front-end loading, because I'll remind the committee of the conversation I had with a bunch of the mayors when I asked them about their comp plan. They have one. They've never looked at it, right? It's something that they have to do. And I think one of the things we're trying to do here is overcome the putting it on the shelf and build this into a process where we can action it. And these feedback loops that we have in here, we're going to have to hold all of ourselves accountable to make sure as we go through the first years, we're looking at the next 2 or 3 and we're front loading that with more specificity than we can see today.
Matt?
So to Mayor Harmon's point, I agree, he actually stole my point, but is there a way to put language in this that actually specifies every 2 to 3 years we actually reinvent the implementation plan as relative to, I don't know, Ally, I see you're responding to that.
Yeah, Alan?
Yes, so within the narrative of the plan, there'll be a lot more detail on guidance for how the city should update and maintain and reevaluate these plans at different points in time, knowing that trends, conditions, funding sources, staff availability all change over time, that there's regular checkpoints built in. That's just not with this piece. That would be in the plan narrative.
Dennis?
I was just going to say that, in a sense, you put forward the plan, and there are short-term actions that you have to take so that the things that are in the plan can be effectuated. But then there's a period of waiting to see, if you build it, will they come? And at that point, you have to make adjustments to the plan, and I'm comforted that the feedback loop allows you to do it. And the other thing I've heard a lot is everybody keeps talking about 10 years. If things start happening in a big way, you don't have to wait 10 years to, 10 years is what you're legally required to do, but you can open it up and start sooner if things happen quickly.
Any other comments that the staff want to add at this point? No, okay. Bruce?
So what's the next steps? Are we going to go through this, or is this, are we just talking generalities now because of the short time, or are we actually going to look at different?
Yeah, I have a plan.
Okay.
So, what we're not gonna do is go through this line by line, because it'll be into 2027 if we do it that way. But what I would wanna do is have an opportunity for you to comment or ask questions. My approach would be, we'll go section by section. So, for example, the first one would be future land use, so we would look at that. I'd look for questions from you. I'd like to see that you've reviewed it, that you have questions, or that you think something was omitted or something shouldn't be in there. By your review, so that we can entertain that and take action as appropriate. And we would do that in each one of those sections. Depending on how much discussion or questions there are, will drive how long it takes. However, my hope is that since we have about 25 minutes left tonight, we don't have a lot of time to accomplish a great deal on this, but this would be the #1 subject for the June 23rd, for the meeting. And we would spend the majority, substantial portion of our time, to the degree to which you want to discuss it at that meeting, to entertain any changes or additions that you think are needed for this policy.
So just to follow it up, before the next meeting, the big one that jumped out at me was number 2.1.7. Amend zoning standards to reduce barriers to redevelopment such as setback, parking, lot coverage, density, or lot size requirements where appropriate.
This is under the future land use section.
Section 2. Future land use, yeah.
Okay.
So, in reading through the document, this was the one that, to me, just opened the possibility for the next 10 years where you can change zoning or amend zoning standards to do pretty much anything you want. And I thought that the comp plan was preventing that. So that would be my question. Maybe, I just mentioned it tonight so that you can think about it, so that next time maybe we can talk about it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
To refresh our memories, the land use the growth areas, and the low growth, medium growth areas, what this comprehensive plan addresses, and if adopted by the city council, the underlying principle is that the planning board and the policymakers have to stay to be consistent with what those are. So if in the agricultural zone, it's pretty clear what's allowable. You're not going to build an industrial park there. So if you wanted to change your zoning to do that, that could be challenged and say it violates the comprehensive plan, you can't do it. And that happened to me when I was mayor. A little different scenario, but it was a change made by the council, was not a change, was not a land use that was permitted in that area. It was challenged and went to Superior Court, and the judge supported that the city could not do that and voided it to do that. So that's the strongest protections you have. Now, when you get to particular areas where zoning will have to be applied to that area, then in that process of updating it, the group and the planning board that will be working with that will be making some decisions in regards to the details of what is consistent, but the particulars that apply to applying it, whether it's residential or industrial or whatever the zone is. Dana?
I would just ask that as we go through this document, it would be very helpful for me to get maybe a primer for each section as we discuss it, just from, I don't know if it's appropriate from staff or from whoever wrote the document, to just give us a little bit of a context as to what the thoughts and desire of each section is. As I was reading through this, I thought there's a lot of good stuff in here, but it's kind of a document that I haven't seen before, and it's just here all of a sudden. And I'd just like to get a little bit more context as to, like, does this achieve the desired results? I think it probably does, but I'd just like to have a little bit more of a background into how this was developed.
That's a good point, Dana. And because the staff administration worked a great deal on that, we can work together. We're having a sort of a brief summary of those sections. What the major, you already have the objectives, so you can see what the major objectives are. So I think we can give an overview of what is the goal, how are the objectives of achieving that goal, and not speak to every single action item, but at least demonstrate in some of the action items how that is achieved. I didn't mean to change your work schedule, Phil, but we could probably work on this. Hello?
Yeah, so I had gone through each section and given my feedback to staff. I'm not intending to do that now, but I just really hope that the committee will, the staff has really done a lot of the brunt work for this, and we give it their due diligence and be able to really sink our teeth into this and spend as much time as we need to get this right. I don't believe we'll get that done in one meeting. We're certainly not going to get it done in the next 20 minutes. So I think we as a committee need to take considerable, serious action on that front. But high level, one thing I found, a lot of good ideas in this document. I also found this document lacking in a lot of foundational things. For instance, one thing I look at is language, right? I mean, this is a document full of words. Language matters in a big document like this. If this document is meant to be the sort of North Star for the city, something that's going to guide it for the next 10, 15 years, we need to be, we need to take the language that we're including in here seriously, right? And so just a couple things that I found lacking in this document was the word resilience. Only shows up 2 times in this document. That should be a foundational aspect of, what we were trying to achieve and what we want the city to achieve, right? And so just for it to appear twice, I think is quite shameful, because it's foundational for everything we're trying to do, whether it's the environment, whether it's having, guiding different developments that are coming to the city to be energy efficient, to have that sort of thing. And I think there is a section in here relating to climate resilience, but it's only like, I think, 2 or 3 boxes, which could be improved on. And then another one I was thinking about was equitable and equity, which shows up 1 time in the entire document. I think that says a lot. I think if you know Auburn is not, Auburn is a diverse community, right? And if we want to embrace the diversity of Auburn, we need to take and have a platform to advocate and to, embrace the equity and make sure that it's an equitable community that we live in, right? And so to take that seriously, we need to actually, dive deep into these issues and not shy away from it. And that's what I'm encouraging the committee to do, and hopefully we can continue those conversations moving forward.
And you've said you've sent those comments to staff.
Yeah, staff has all my edits and comments and feedback, so I'm hoping that we can,
Okay, so that's
spend,
helpful.
spend as much time as we need to get it done.
Yeah, so that's helpful to do that, and it provides an opportunity to be worked on in between our meetings, and so that can be responded to appropriately. And if there are others who have comments, again, I really encourage you to get those to the staff so that we can begin to look at them, do that. I just want to, one more and I get right back to it. My goal is to provide as much opportunity for this committee to feel comfortable that they understand and the document and that it meets your expectations on what it should be. At the same time, it's also my goal to keep this process moving forward. So I have to try to weigh both sides of that. Give you as much time as is reasonable to bring forward your thoughts and ideas that may improve it. But at the same time, I'm also very mindful that every meeting that we push this off to get to the point where we can say that we're doing a draft, we're going to add a month to this process, simply because of the time it takes to put it together and go through the process with the planning board and public meetings. So just be mindful, I'm trying to balance both those needs. Dana.
So I guess I thought of two things here while you were talking. So I think the biggest piece that I wanted to address is just, so Bilal had a great point there, and I think that he brings up some places where we probably have room for improvement, and it brought to my attention that we don't necessarily have a good feedback loop for those types of changes. So if it's a typo or something like that, I don't know that the committee needs to review it, but a substantive change like that could generate some discussion that I think we should have as a committee. And if we're not prepared for that discussion, then it's not an efficient use of the committee's time. So how do we prepare everybody in this room to have those discussions when somebody has a great idea that they bring to staff that we aren't discussing as a committee in real time? What are we gonna do?
Well, if you provide those comments, then we can organize them, and the ones that are technical or typos or that kind of thing, we won't spend time with the committee with that. But the ones that are asking substantive questions, then we know that those need to be addressed. And it's helpful to know that in advance so that we can organize it in a way for the committee to have an opportunity, to respond to the question and give you a better context, but B, to have the committee make some discussion and decisions on it. And the more that we can do that in advance, the more efficient we'll be in making making any improvements that help the plan.
John, I'll also add, Dana, you're reading my mind. So for this meeting, we want to talk about broad, what questions the committee had, and see if we had time to go into the first section. I was assuming that we were not. So for your packet for next week, for your June 23rd meeting, we'll have a document that puts all of the comments together from the different committee members so that you can read them and think about them. And so I was encouraging the committee to send me comments ahead of time so that we can have that time to think beforehand. So I think what I'll do is have a shared Word document and share it with you all in your folder, and then also a PDF version too for those of you that have trouble with our SharePoint system, so you can have those comments. And so the earlier that you can get me comments, then your rest of your committee members can see those as well.
Yeah, that's the other important point. Get them in before we send out, which is usually a week or so before the meeting. We can send that to all of you so you can see what other members are thinking and questions that they're asking. Adam?
I'm going to just voice, because it's sort of a high-level thing, and I'm realizing that this is a struggle I have not with this particular document, but with documents of this kind, and is the thing that makes me put them on the shelf, is just sort of reading through the language. You have an action item, and the action item's super specific and really great and like substantive, and then it has caveat language, which I fully understand needs to be in there because we're not the policymakers, we're not the ones who are going to be actually implementing the plan, but it uses something like where appropriate and where necessary, and so it's like that's the policy question, and that's like the part I want to work on, but like I get that that's not something that can be in a document like this, and I'm not asking you to resolve that or to like, I'm just sort of airing a thing that so realization I had, that's what makes me put it on the shelf, is that it's just like the big questions are unanswered.
Give me just a second. We struggled with that question. because you know very well as a person who works with language, in particularly in reference to law issues or policies, that there's a demarcation between having enough room to implement when you don't know exactly everything, but not to create open trap doors where some future group says, I don't give a shit about this. It says we're appropriate, it's not appropriate, we're just not doing it. And that's the challenge. So that's been shared by many of us who have read this several times and who have brought that question up. Dana?
Yeah, so the big piece that I'm going to bring up here, I think, is that when I opened this document, I guess I was just expecting something a little bit different. I was expecting this and the rest of the text of the comp plan. And I fully realize that that's draft one. However, the rest of the text of the comp plan is a huge discussion piece that we're going to need to have. And I have very deep concerns about the plan, the timeline that we have in front of us for approving that, having not seen it yet at this point. I think that that's the kind of thing that's going to take months to do because it's the biggest piece of the comp plan and we haven't seen it yet. And it's going to be, we're going to get it here, I don't know what, August, something like that. And you guys will want us to approve it in September. Like that to me is, like we've had, by then it'll be 2 years basically that this committee's been meeting, and we're gonna have 2 months to approve the biggest piece of this plan.
Yeah, well, just to be clear, the organizational meeting was in December of 24, and we've gone to, 25. So we're not quite 2 years, but we're getting into a number of months that we spent on this. Rick?
Yeah, I'd just like to point out that the 2010 comp plan had way more members and a lot of attrition in attendance. And this committee, to its credit, has had pretty steady attendance from the vast majority of people. I'm inspired by Councilor Duval's, having all this work with us, being a city councilor and all the other assignments, and then having been through it twice. So I need to go through it again. And it's a lot of work, but I'm going to go through it and I'll send some comments. And I think everybody else needs to do that and we'll be in a good place.
Bill?
Yeah, I think if you get the final document and you have surprises, then something's gone wrong, because I think that there's been a lot of conversation. You've got to go back, though. You've got to go back to some of those early meetings with the community and the feedback and all of that work. And I think if you do that and refresh your memory, I don't think there's going to be any surprises. There should, when you see that final document. As you go through the policies, though, to I think what Adam was saying, of this 85 pages, the 2010 policy chapter was like 65 pages, but it was in a very different format. And it was in a format that just didn't provide accountability and outcomes. They weren't SMART goals. They were so broad. To your point, John, I think as a former director within the city, if there was something I needed to get through, I could make that language work and bring it before the council and say, it's in the comp plan, it's right here. This is I look at this as a document these are SMART goals. You're gonna have these actions, you're gonna have these timelines, you're gonna have elements that make sense and that you can report back out on. And that's why I think this format does that. I think the big narrative, if you look at the previous chapter in 2010, it's hard to get to that. It's really challenging. So the format, I think, is good as a staff member, right? I see that as beneficial. I understand your part. I think the rest of that document that Dana's talking about, that's going to be really the pieces that I think, the areas that Bilal's talking about. That's where you're going to see these areas that what are we talking about for resiliency? How do we feel as a community as it pertains to climate change? How are we feeling? What are we going to be addressing that? And I think that's where you're going to see that narrative, but not necessarily spelled out that same way. Not that there can't be some wordsmithing, because I think there can be. But I think it's going to be a strong document for us to be able to build off from.
John, I just would like to add to, for Dana's comment, and to add on to Phil, it hopefully isn't surprising and a lot to digest because you've been doing the dirty work of the future land use map and the discussions and then the policies. And so our job now is to take the conversations that you've had and put it in a narrative and that it flows. And you're like, yeah, we did talk about this. We did talk about this. There will be comments to add. But also to John's point, balancing the need to look through the document thoroughly, but also understanding that it's not something that'll be brand new and that a bulk of the work was completed by the committee. And to Bilal's earlier point about the environment, the climate change section of the policies, it's intentionally high level and short because the city is going for a grant for a climate action plan. So there's a lot that we don't know about climate vulnerability, and we'll have a chapter on that in the inventory analysis. But it's intentionally vague to leave room for that climate action plan, which would be like the comprehensive looking at the built and social infrastructure vulnerabilities and creating a plan from that. So I just wanted to comment because from an environmental planner standpoint, I'm like, oh no, it's so small, but it's that climate action plan piece that will help build that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to follow on that point, there's some of the things that are in this matrix reference something else. So the city's already adopted the Maine Climate Action Plan. There's no need to regurgitate all that in this document. We just need to, have a reference to it because we've already adopted all of the goals and standards that are within that.
Mm. And that will apply to other things like the housing goals as well. You do that. Just to wrap it up, you did receive in your packet an outline that regards the timeline. If you haven't looked at it, look at it again simply because it helps to lay out the steps ahead of us. So you'll be fully aware what those steps this committee will be participating in. The timeline may shift, but the steps we have to go through are not going to change. We have to go through those. Again, thank you for all of your time. You put in a tremendous amount of effort. You provide very good comments, which are appreciated. I hope that as we go through this, you'll see, or you'll be comfortable with the product that you're creating here. We'll see you again on June 23rd. I'll accept the motion to adjourn. Is that your motion?
Just one last thing. Lauren said that she would take the comments from the committee and then spill them back out to us in time for the next meeting. And I just wanted to ask, when would be a good time, like a date certain, for you to receive those comments so that you can do that comfortably?
So our meeting's Tuesday the 23rd. I think by next Tuesday, if you get those to me, that would be great. And I'll get you the packet either Tuesday or Wednesday. If you do it and track changes in Word, which would be so helpful for me, it would make the turnaround faster. We can merge those into one document. If you get it to me written, maybe get it to me by Monday, so I have a little more time.
Thanks. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous.